There's a quiz in the show notes this week called the Awakening Trigger Map. It won't place you in the cycle. That's something we'll cover in the episode, but it will show you exactly what's activating your nervous system in your parenting right now. It's 4 minutes, it's free, and it's one of those tools that makes a lot of previously confusing things start to make sense. And the link is in the show notes. Can I talk to you about something? When you imagined yourself as a parent before you actually became one, or back when it was still hypothetical, what did you picture? I'm guessing it involved some version of intentionality, warmth, presence, connection, not screaming into the void on a Tuesday because somebody won't put their bloody shoes on. Here's what I've come to believe after working for years with parents who are smart, driven, deeply intentional people. The gap between the parent you want to be and the parent you actually are in the hard moment, that gap is not a values problem. It's not a knowledge problem. It's a nervous system problem. And underneath the nervous system problem is a cycle that nobody explained to you. Today, we're going to change that. Welcome to The Family Architect. I'm Philippa Scott, and if you're new here, this podcast is for parents who refuse to parent the way they were parented just because it's the way they know. It's for people who want to design their family culture with intention rather than inherit one by default. Today kicks off a 5-week series called The Mother Awakening Art. And yes, the word mother is in the title, but I want to be clear. The framework we're going to talk about applies to anyone doing the emotional and relational work of parenting. If you're in it, this is for you. Over the next 5 weeks, we're going to use a framework I call the Mother Awakening Cycle to map out what actually happens to us as parents, not just at the beginning, but across the entire arc of family life. Because here's the thing. Most parenting resources treat parenthood like it's a single transition. You have a baby, you adapt, you figure it out. Done. That is not what happens. Parenthood is a repeating developmental cycle. And understanding that cycle is the difference between parenting by design and parenting by default. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably someone who's already done some work on yourself. You've read the books. You know about nervous system regulation in theory. You're aware that generational patterns exist. You genuinely want to do something differently. And yet, there are moments where you hear your own parent's voice coming out of your mouth and you're horrified. Moments where you react in ways that contradict everything you believe. Moments where the gap between your intention and your actual behavior are so wide that you want to sit down and cry. That is not hypocrisy. That's a dysregulated nervous system running a very old program. And the reason knowing that matters, the reason the cycle matters, is that when you understand where you are in it, you stop interpreting your own responses as evidence of failure. You start seeing them as information, data about where the system is under pressure, and data you can actually work with. The Mother Awakening Cycle gives you a map for that. And there are 6 stages in the cycle. I'm going to walk you through all of them today. And then over the next 4 weeks, we're going to dive into each one. Now, the first one is initiation. The second is accommodation. 3, fragmentation. 4, awakening. 5, reclamation. And 6, integration. And critically, this is not a one-time journey. It's a spiral. Every time your family moves into a new stage, the cycle begins again. New baby, new school, a neurodivergence diagnosis, adolescence. every time it repeats, you bring more awareness to it if you have the framework to recognize what's happening. So stage 1, initiation. Initiation is the threshold. The new stage of family life begins. Now, the original initiation is obvious, becoming a parent for the first time. But the cycle doesn't stop there. Every significant developmental shift in your child's life is a new initiation. School starting, a diagnosis, the beginning of adolescence. Each one changed the demands on you as a parent. Each one asks something new of your nervous system and your identity. Here's the most important thing to understand about initiation. It often arrives before we're ready. Life doesn't schedule itself around our capacity. A new stage begins, the system asks to adapt, and we go into the next stage of the cycle. Stage 2 is accommodation. Accommodation is where driven, intentional parents tend to spend a very long time. This is the stage where you adjust yourself to meet the demands. You stretch your capacity. You take on more. You get efficient. You optimize. You find systems. And you tell yourself that if you can just get through this season, things will calm down. From the outside, you look like you're nailing it. Inside, your nervous system is slowly tightening. Your authentic self is slowly being filed under not now. Your needs are being quietly deprioritized, not maliciously, just constantly. The phrase I hear from most parents in accommodation is, I should be able to handle this. That sentence is the calling card of someone who has been in accommodation so long, they've forgotten that handling everything is not the same as thriving. And the reason I want to name this stage clearly before you're even in pain is that intentional parents are particularly at risk of extended accommodation because we know how to reframe. We know how to regulate enough to keep going. We are very, very good at pushing through. But the body keeps the score, and eventually the system has a different opinion. Stage 3 is fragmentation. Fragmentation is when the system can no longer hold the load. It arrives differently for different people. For some, it's a slow build, a growing undercurrent of resentment or exhaustion that becomes impossible to ignore. For others, it arrives suddenly. One ordinary Tuesday where you snap at your child over something small and scare yourself with the intensity of what came out of you. Common signs of fragmentation: chronic overwhelm, emotional reactivity that surprises you, resentment that you feel guilty about, a sense of being disconnected from yourself, from your values, your presence, your capacity to respond rather than react. The most important thing I want to tell you about fragmentation is this. You are not parenting badly because you lack skill or information. You're parenting in fragmentation because your nervous system is under pressure and old patterns are running the show. The patterns you inherited, the strategies that were modeled to you, the dysregulation that was never addressed. Fragmentation is not the problem. Fragmentation is the signal. And if you've ever caught yourself parenting in a way that horrifies you, using your parent's exact words, exact tone, that's fragmentation speaking, not your character. Your nervous system under load, reaching for what it already knows. I want to pause here because I know where you are right now. You're drowning, not in theory, in actual chaos. Your nervous system is all over the place. Your kids are dysregulated and you're sitting in layers of guilt. Guilt that you're not handling this better. Guilt that you snapped. Guilt that other mothers seem to have this figured out and you don't. And you're thinking, I should know better by now. I should be able to do this. But here's the truth. Knowing better and being able to do it when your system is flooded are two completely different things. I'm the mother of 4 neurodivergent girls. I know what it's like to be in a moment with no idea what happens next, to be standing in the wreckage of a meltdown, yours or theirs or both, and not knowing how to move forward. That guilt, that what do I do now panic, that chaos, that's why I built the Regulated Mother in Your Pocket. It's me, my voice, my work, my years of learning what actually helps, distilled into something that you can access when you're in it. My niece calls it Annie Pip in your pocket. And that's exactly what it is. Gentle, nourishing, tested. Not because it's complicated, but because it's simple. You don't have to explain. You don't have to be calm first. You just show up as you are and you get support that feels like someone who actually knows what you're going through. There's a free trial in the show notes. But right now, in this moment, I want you to know you're not failing. You're overwhelmed. And you don't have to figure it out alone. Now let's keep going. Stage 4 is awakening. The awakening is the pimp. Something inside you refuses to keep going the same way. And maybe it happens gradually, a growing sense that the gap between who you want to be and who you're actually showing up as has become intolerable. Maybe it arrives in a single moment that you won't forget. The awakening is the moment you stop asking, how do I manage my child's behavior better? And start asking, what's happening inside me that drives this pattern? That's a fundamentally different question, and it changes everything. For intentional parents, the awakening can carry a particular quality of grief because you already knew you wanted to do things differently. You made the conscious choice, and yet here you are in the patterns anyway. That grief is real. It deserves to be honored. But the awakening is also, and I need you to hear this, the most powerful moment in the cycle. Because the moment you stop explaining your patterns and start getting curious about them is the moment you can actually begin to change them for yourself, for your children, and for the generations that follow. Stage 5, reclamation. Reclamation is where the design work actually begins. Once you've moved through the awakening, once you've named what's happening and made the decision to engage with it rather than push through it, reclamation is where you start building the alternative. You learn to regulate your nervous system at a physiological level. You start to understand your triggers, not just what they are, but where they come from. You begin examining the patterns you inherited and making conscious choices about which ones you want to pass forward and which ones stopped with you. This is where the regulated mother method lives. This is the actual practical methodology of the work. And it's intentional, non-linear. You will revisit things. You will have setbacks. You will have moments where you think you've regressed. And you'll need to know that regression in a non-linear process is not regression. It's depth. Stage 6, integration. Integration is where you become what I call the family architect. You're no longer reacting to the family you have. You're consciously designing the family you want. You understand your nervous system. You have language for your triggers. You have strategies that actually work because they're built on regulation rather than willpower. You're shaping family culture, the emotional climate of your home, the patterns your children are growing up inside with intention. And you are healing things backwards and forwards simultaneously. The patterns that shaped you are being seen and named. The patterns you pass forward are being chosen, not inherited. And that is a profound act. It is also not the end. Because the cycle continues, a new stage arrives, your child hits adolescence, and the whole system is invited to go deeper. Each loop of the spiral brings more awareness, more regulation, and more capacity. If you want a quick way to hold the cycle in your mind, a shorthand for where things go wrong and what's actually happening, here it is. Adjust, break, awaken. Accommodation is where you adjust. Fragmentation is where the system breaks. Awakening is where you finally see what's happening. Then reclaim, integrate. That's the whole arc. And once you know it, you'll start seeing it everywhere, in yourself, in the parents around you, in the conversations you have about why parenting is so bloody hard. Because the reason it's hard isn't that we love our children too little, or that we don't know enough, or that we didn't try hard enough. It's that you were handed a nervous system shaped by your own childhoods, dropped into one of the most demanding roles a human being can hold, and given almost no framework for understanding the developmental process we are actually moving through. This cycle is that framework. The next week, we're going into initiation and accommodation. And specifically, we're going to talk about how high achieving, intentional parents are actually the most vulnerable to extended accommodation. It's a real conversation and it might make you a bit uncomfortable. Good. Discomfort is how cycles begin to change. Now, 2 things before you go. First, the Awakening Trigger Map quiz is in the show notes, and it will map what's currently activating your nervous system as a parent. It's free and it takes about 4 minutes, and it gives you language that you can actually use. Second, wherever you are in the cycle right now, whether you're in the middle of accommodating and didn't know that that's what it was called, or whether you're deep in fragmentation, you need to hear that it doesn't mean you're failing. Now, share this episode with someone who's in it with you, because the cycle moves faster when you're not carrying it alone. Like and follow so you're notified when the next episode comes out. I'm Philippa Scott. This is The Family Architect, and I'll meet you back here next week.